Good morning, students. Today we are starting with the chapter 12 of English literature, that is The Shoemaker. The writer of this chapter is Charles Dickens, and the theme of this chapter is self, family, home, and friends. So, first we will have an introduction about the writer first. Charles Dickens was a noteworthy author of the 19th century. His novels were appreciated not only for their plots and interesting characters, but also because they provided a commentary on the terrible conditions in which young children worked in factories. So these were the topics or the themes mainly on which Charles Dickens used to write, about the interesting characters and about the young children who were working in the factories. Now, what is the chapter all about? This extract means the chapter that is given in your book. This extract is from Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities, a historical novel set in London and Paris at the time of French Revolution. All of you must have heard about the French Revolution in history. Dr. Manette is released from the Bastille, the infamous French prison, after 18 years. Despite being innocent, means he was not guilty of anything, or he was not guilty of the crime for which he was imprisoned. So, despite being innocent, he had been imprisoned due to his involvement in a secret concerning an aristocratic French family. When released, he is looked after by a faithful servant, Defarge. This extract focuses on the touching meeting between Mr. Manette and his daughter Louise when she visits him with Mr. Lorry, an old friend. Lucy discovers that her father, whom she had believed to be dead, is alive but lost to the world. So, this is the extract from the novel that has been given here, and these situations are described in this extract when the person came out of the prison and what happened when he met his daughter, or when his daughter met her, the one who was believing that her father was died. So now I am reading the chapter. A broad ray of light fell into the garret and showed the workman with an unfinished shoe upon his lap. Here, this line is saying that a broad a ray of light was falling on the top of a floor. Here, the term is used garret. Garret means a top floor or attic room. So where the light was falling on the top floor, or the room that was there on the top floor. And what was there inside that room? There was a workman who has some unfinished work. What was the unfinished work? An unfinished shoe in his lap, pausing in his labor, and he was sitting there with the unfinished piece of shoe, and he was not working at that time. His few common tools, the tools that are used to make the shoes, his few common tools and various scraps of leathers. Scraps of leathers means the various pieces of leather were at his feet and on his bench. He had a white beard, raggedly cut but not very long, a hollow face, and exceedingly bright eyes. Here, this sentence is describing about the look of that person. So all the adjectives are used here. He had a white beard. Raggedly cut means it was not fine, not properly shaped, but not very long. But it was not very long although. A hollow face. A hollow face means very thin. The cheeks are inside the bones. And exceedingly bright eyes. The hollowness and thinness of his face would have caused them to look large. And here, when we are talking about the exceedingly bright eyes, so why the eyes are explained extremely bright eyes or the big eyes? Because of the hollowness and the thinness of the face. As we have discussed, the face was very thin and hollow, and because of that the eyes were looking very big. The eyes were not actually very big, but because of the rest of the structure of his face that was not in proportion to the eyes, so the eyes was looking very big. Under his yet dark eyebrows and his confused white hair, the dark eyebrows were there and white hair, though they had been really otherwise, but they were naturally large and looked unnaturally so. The hair were large. His yellow rags of shirt lay open at the throat and showed his body to be withered and worn. The next thing that is described about his clothes. His yellow rag of shirt lay open at the throat. The collar of the shirt was open and showed his body to be withered and worn. And because of that, one can see his very weak, thin body. He and his old canvas frock, the canvas frock is the cloth that he was wearing, that was known as the canvas frock, and his loose stockings and all his poor tatters of clothes. Tatters of clothes means the pieces, the worn pieces of the clothes had in a long seclusion from direct light and air. Means here it is described that whatever the clothing that person, the shoemaker, was wearing, they were not in a good condition. They were worn, they were ragged, and it was believed that also these clothes were not in touch with the light and air for so long. Faded down to such a dull uniformity of parchment yellow that it would have been hard to say which was which. And here, in a long seclusion, seclusion means when they are separate from the direct light and air. Seclusion means being away from. Being away from. And the next one was the parchment yellow. All of you must have heard about the parchment. It is a parchment is a stiff, flat, thin material made from the prepared made from the prepared skin of an animal. All of you must have heard about the parchment paper. So it is a thin flat material that is made up of a skin of any animal. So it was very much similar to that thing. The dull uniformity of the parchment yellow, that it would have been hard to say which was which. Means her clothes were so much resembling to that parchment yellow that it was difficult to say which were the clothes of that person and which were the parchment yellow. So here in this paragraph, it is described all about the look of that person, that white hair, exceedingly big eyes, about his clothes, about his beard. Now we will start with the second paragraph. So in the second paragraph, he had put up a hand between his eyes and the light, and very bones of it seemed transparent. Now the person was avoiding the broad ray of light, from where we have started the chapter, that a broad ray of light was coming to the floor or entering the room. So the person did not like that. So he put a hand between his eyes and the light, so that the light would not fall directly on his eyes. And because of this, the light was falling on the hand, so the bones of that person was seeming transparent. So he sat with a steadfastly vacant gaze. Now the meaning of steadfastly vacant gaze is given here: a consistently expressionless look. When you are looking at somewhere without any expression and continuously you are looking at that particular point. So the steadfastly vacant gaze, pausing in his work. And because of that light, because of the ray of light, he paused his work and he started looking at a point without any expression. He never looked at the figure before him without first looking down on this side of himself. Then on that, as if he had lost the habit of associating place with sound, he never spoke without first wandering in this manner and forgetting to speak. Now, what was his reaction here? It is explaining he never looked at the figure before him. He was not habitual of seeing the people who were coming to visit him without first looking down on this side of himself. He was talking about himself, the way he was reacting, the way he was giving his expressions now. Then, on that, if he had lost the habit of associating place with sound, means he has no connection with the place he was sitting, the sounds those were coming, and he was not able to associate the things, the place and the sound. He never spoke without first wandering in this manner and forgetting to speak. And earlier, when he was not imprisoned, he never spoke in such a way that he forgot what to speak, or first wandering in the manner that what to speak. When means he did not have the words to speak. He never behaved in this manner earlier.